Hello everyone, my name is Niall. Welcome back to another video. As you can see, there's Formula 1 2017 in the background. Now before you shout at me, it's a nice throwback. This is a race I found that I recorded a few weeks ago. Kevin Magnussen around Hungary, and it's basically me going Kevin Magnussen mode on everybody, so as you can see, we're already getting aggressive here. But yes, I wanted to make this video interesting in terms of Magnussen in the background, and also what can I say as well, so I should try my best. So how am I going to do that? Well, I wanted to talk about anxiety again, and how the main idea at the moment in my head is that different people respond to anxiety differently. So basically, no matter what, every single person will have a different response if they're anxious, and every single person will have a different response to people who are anxious as well. And it all comes down to the whole perception of life, but that's going to get really deep if I go into that. So basically, I wanted to talk about how hard it is to gauge to other people how you're feeling, and how hard it is to perceive other people's feelings. And that's kind of the thing, is that you're in a way, you're on your own, inside your own head. It's like getting too deep again, I think it is. I think I need to stop myself whenever I start getting too deep, just suddenly like, no, we're not going there now. But aren't all my conversations deep though? But yeah, and it really just kind of emphasises the importance of communicating about mental health, which is why I've made this channel, which is why I make these videos, because it needs to be talked about more in this world, full stop. So if we start talking about our own experiences with it and say, this is how I feel, and somebody else will say, this is how I feel, and then somebody else who doesn't have a mental health disorder will say, well, this is how I feel, and this is how I think you feel, is this about right? And agreements can happen. Friendships can be made. Where am I going? But yeah, I wanted to talk about one thing. The idea that people in education, so kids in school, people in university, responding to workloads and things like that, because this is something that's affected me a lot, is that in school we basically got absolutely hammered with loads of work all the time. And I'll be honest, I completely burnt myself out. I did way too much work. I didn't have a work-life balance. It was just a work balance. If you can imagine work-life balance being a seesaw, then work would have a huge weight on it and life would be up in the air somewhere. But it's kind of made me think about the question how kids respond to pressures, because in a way I think it's almost like there's so much pressure in education right now that people are starting to respond in one of two ways, and those are, they either do really well and start succeeding really well and get used to pressure and they've basically become acclimatized to it, or it can go the other way and you can start getting really anxious about everything. Everything feels overwhelming to you and you just full stop aren't able to cope with it. I mean, there's always in-betweens as well, and I kind of feel like in a way, although I did cope with school, I got through it, it's left me in a difficult place afterwards, because they always make it seem, well, in my school at least, they made it seem like, well, you've only got one more year, this is it, this is the year that matters, and then the next year comes along and you're still going. You gotta find that motivation again. And when school's over, university, if you go to university, then that's a whole different kind of workload you have to deal with, and you've got to be so much more responsible personally for what you do, and that brings its own pressures as well. I mean, I struggled with university. I did a degree that I didn't enjoy. I graduated, I got through, I stuck with it, which I'm really proud of, but it took a huge amount of effort and it left my mental health state in a horrible place, really. So I want to think, is it right that we actually have all these pressures put on us from a young age these days? Because it doesn't strike me as right. When you look at countries which, well, I don't know too much about them, but I've heard about Scandinavian countries who have really good education systems and that they get decent results, and they also don't overwork their students and let them have a life, because at the end of the day, that's what we're here for. We're here to enjoy ourselves and not spend all this time studying. I mean, I don't want to start a rebellion. I mean, obviously, if you're in school and there's not much you can do about it because you're not in a position of power, unfortunately, and that's how I felt for the longest time, is that you listen to people above you and to teachers because they're superior to you, they're older than you, they have experience. But in this case, are they really right? Is it really right to throw so much work and expect so much of young people that they burn themselves out? I don't think it is. I think different people have different tolerances. I think as well, different people have different responses to actual teachers pressuring you into doing things and being intense about giving you homework and things like that. I mean, I used to absolutely hate that. It used to get me really worried if teachers would come up and be like, "You have to finish this right now." It didn't talk like that. But compared to the ones who are more relaxed about it, I managed to do a better job, I guess, and not be as worried about it. But yeah, I mean, it's a question I ask because society is changing so fast, and I can't help but feel that a lot of things like that are outdated. This has turned into a complete tangent. I wasn't going to talk about this, but there we go. I was going to talk about responses to anxiety and things, but we'll go back into that a bit. I wanted to talk about speech, because speech to me is something that's difficult. I find it difficult to say things full stop to people. I've been improving, and it comes with practice really, but I think there needs to be a wider understanding that people who don't speak too often, it might not be that they're being rude to you, because a lot of people seem to think that way. I mean, to be fair, my life has not been a huge amount, but it's definitely struck me. And maybe again it's in my own head, because maybe I'm being anxious, maybe I'm overthinking it and being like, oh, they hate me. So maybe it's just as much my fault, but I think certain people find it really difficult to say things out loud, and that should be respected as well, not just with social anxiety, but with also more introverted people who don't want to say as much. That should be respected. I mean, at the end of the day, it's important to speak and it's important to communicate. That's something else I promote, but you get pressures from schools, from universities to speak up and make yourself heard, and if you're being really quiet, you're not doing it right. That's not the norm, and it's like, well, maybe that's the case for some people, but it's not the case for everybody. Some people are more comfortable not saying anything, and they're still learning, and that's fine. And it comes back to the idea of presentations in school and things like that, which I used to hate, and I've gotten through a lot of them, and I've done pretty well in some of them, which has really surprised me. But they are ridiculously difficult, and they're also really draining, because I'd hardly get any sleep the night before. I'd be worrying about it if I knew it in advance, basically from whenever I knew about it, whenever it was set. Even if it was a few weeks, it'd be in the back of my mind that entire time. I don't think it's fair. I mean, obviously, in my situation, it's more that I needed help managing social anxiety. But at the same time, shouldn't schools be more flexible with how they decide to make you work? And going along the same kind of pattern, people also respond differently to the amount of people they have around them. So some people might choose to be alone more often, and some people might choose to surround themselves with loads of people. In school settings, that can happen. Some people might prefer to do loads of group work, some people might prefer to work individually. Some people choose to be alone, and that's okay as well. And really, you should be reflecting your own strengths when you're carrying out schoolwork and things, because it's important to do what's comfortable for you. And I mean, I personally don't have too much of a preference. I mean, as much as I'm socially anxious, I do enjoy the company of other people, if it's good company, of course. But I do enjoy social environments, but I also hate them at the same time. It's like a weird confliction. It's like, it's not straightforward, and I want to be able to talk to people, and I want to be able to just be happy around people and make them happy and everything, but at the same time it's also something I fear so much. And I think that's the thing, is that a lot of people with social anxiety might not be like that. They might just not want to be around people, and that's okay too, because if they want to live that way, that's fine. But the point I'm trying to get across is that different people have different responses. They have different ways of feeling, different emotions. Not one person with anxiety has the same responses to everything. I'm mumbling now. And the thing is as well, I think that I do need time alone to kind of recharge, for sure, that's important to me. But at the same time, as much as I might need less time socialising with other people, when it stops becoming my choice that I'm alone, when I can't be around people if I want to, that's the most difficult thing, and that's what loneliness is to me. I think that's about what I want to say. I must have added another video in here, another race, because I talked for way too long. I hope what you get from this video is an understanding, but also a realisation of how important it is to communicate and just be open, talk about things. You don't have to go overboard, but you just have to be accepting that it's important, I'd say. Does that make sense? Kind of? I don't know. Well, thank you for taking another episode into Niall's mind. I hope you enjoyed the video. Thank you very much for watching, and I shall see you again soon.
Alright, race over. Take care of the car on the way in.